Hello and welcome to Good Things. On this week's show we're going to be talking about the original Marvel movie, Blade. Well, I suppose there was Marvel movies before that, but kind of like Blade kickstarted it all, god damn it, so we're going to talk about the trilogy. Yeah, hello, welcome to the show. This week's show, we're going to be discussing Blade. As in razor blades. Gillette, the best a man can get.
Yeah, now it's like a quadruple, triple blade.
Yeah.
For the closest shave ever.
But we went back looking at the first Blade movies.
The first Blade movies? There's more than 3?
No. There should be, by this stage, they should be a whole... Well, the whole thing, if Marvel didn't get the rights back for Blade before he got into, there would have been a ton more Blade movies. Mm-hmm. There was a Blade series which had sticky fingers in it from Onyx. Do you know Onyx?
Nope.
Bald Heads Attack?
No.
The Onyx, they were a gangster rap band from the 90s.
Oh, right. I was kind of like a superhero. I was like, what?
Yeah, no, but like Sticky Fingers from them played Blade in the TV. Now, we never looked at the TV series because I don't know, it just never really appealed to me. But it was written by Goyer and it was like meant to be a sequel to Blade Trinity. Mm-hmm. And as well, there was going to be a bunch of different Blade movies, but Marvel bought it, and there was going to be Stephen Norrington at one stage was trying to put together a prequel series that would have focused on Stephen Dorff's character. Why can't I do Deacon Frost?
Yes.
And it's like him coming up towards it and stuff. But Stephen Norrington, who directed the first film, he didn't direct anything again after. Was it League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? He had such a hard time dealing with Sean Connery, and it was an awful experience for him. So he was just like, I'm fucking not directing anymore.
Oh, you'll probably find out if you go and Google him that he's probably been off doing his own thing for ages and we're just not aware
No,
of
he
it.
hasn't directed. No, I checked it. He's been associated and he was meant to do a reboot of The Crow at one point and a few other bits and pieces, and apparently he's working on his own animated movie from his house, and Stephen Dorff was talking about it and said it's going to take him another 10 years
he's doing it by himself. Jesus.
Yeah. So there's Stephen Norrington as well. I suppose just getting straight into it, the first movie.
Yeah.
As well.
What's the premise? Tell us the premise, as if anyone doesn't know.
Well, I was just going to say Stephen Norrington directed the first movie, and he didn't direct it, like we were saying afterwards. You threw me off by what's the premise?
Oh, Blade. Tell people what Blade is.
Blade, he's a piece of steel that's very sharp that cuts through the night like a Wesley Snipes. But yeah, he's a vampire hunter, he's a daywalker, he's based on a Marvel comic character from the 70s who I think he probably appeared originally in Tomb of Dracula. And there was a whole thing. It was created by Marv Wolfman, as far as people who don't...
Marv Wolfman, there's a great name.
I think Marv Wolfman might have also done Werewolf by Night, but he would have wrote Dracula, and as well he created Swamp Thing.
See, some people's surnames do actually lend themselves to what they end up doing. Like.
I'm fairly sure he's still alive, but I think he had a lawsuit against the Blade movies because he didn't get paid for it, and he thought that he should have got paid for it. But Marvel, it was Amun Ra was the production company that Wesley Snipes owned, that produced the whole thing, and I think Marvel might have sold the rights to Blade for those, and then they got him back because, like, for people who aren't familiar with it, like around that period, Marvel were fucking bankrupt.
There was no such thing as superhero films, really.
Yeah, there was no. This is why we want to talk about, because like it seems to be like that maybe superhero movies might make a bit of a comeback, but I think they're kind of
there's been too many. I think people have superhero movie exhaustion at this stage.
But Blade started it all. Blade really, really started it all. Before Blade, you had Batman, DC, but Batman was kind of on the downward fucking slide as well after that. And say Marvel movies, there was like a couple of Captain America films that were like straight to video that were really bad and movie ones, and then there was a Spider-Man I think it was in the 70s. That movie. I think it was a TV movie. What else? There was like that Roger Corman Fantastic Four film.
Oh yeah.
But and like me, had the Incredible Hulk on TV and stuff.
But there wasn't like big cinematic kind of like superheroes. There wasn't
the
like
Punisher.
Hollywood.
They did the Punisher with Dolph Lundgren. Remember that? That was meant to be big, but that was awful. We must go back and look at that again.
I love that. That was awful. We really must watch it.
Yeah, but it's been so long since we looked at it. I seem to remember that there was one with David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury.
What? I don't remember.
Yeah. This. But there was all these ones that they weren't good.
Yeah, but
movies.
they were all kind of like B movies, or they were TV movies or whatever. They weren't, or they were straight to video or whatever.
Yeah.
They weren't made for the cinema. They didn't get a big release. They didn't catch people's imagination or attention.
Like with Blade, I think originally with Blade, from what I can remember, Wesley Snipes wanted to do the Black Panther movie and play Black Panther, which would have been fucking amazing at the time, but they were like, well, no one wants to look at Black Panther. So I think someone was after getting the rights for Blade, and he was like, yeah, look, because Wesley Snipes is a martial artist, and he was a fan of Blade, and he's a big fan of the comics. So, excuse me, ideally cast for it. And originally, I think the studios wanted Denzel Washington to play Blade.
That would have been so bizarre, because I think Denzel, as funny as Wesley Snipes can be or whatever, or as ridiculous he can deliver the lines, Denzel Washington would just be a little bit fucking maniacal.
It probably would have ruined Denzel Washington's career.
Yeah. So then the other way around.
Yeah. But sorry for the coughing. Coughing.
What a pun.
But like, I mean, the thing is, a lot of times people, I think because there seems to be a renewed interest in Blade again, because there's like, Marvel have been talking about remaking Blade, with, I can't pronounce the guy's name, he was in True Detective season 3, Masharaf Ali, I think his name might be. And I think he would have made a pretty good Blade, but because Wesley Snipes shows up in the new Wolverine Deadpool movie, people are like, just get Wesley Snipes back for it.
Yeah.
And Ryan Reynolds is pushing it, so I think Ryan Reynolds is probably going to have a fair sway with things, because like the Marvel movie universe seemed to be dying off until like Deadpool and Wolverine are kind of like,
they seem to be the ones that are still kind of like holding the kind of the flag aloft.
So I think I could picture him kind of going, look, we'll go with Ryan Reynolds as kind of idea for things, because I think Gambit was in that. There's a bunch of other people in it that could have been in other movies, which I'm sure they're going to do a Gambit movie now, and I'd imagine they probably dump your man and do another Wesley Snipes Blade movie, because they're probably saying, well, look, there's money in the old nostalgia. But getting away from it, it's like the X-Men movie in 2000 and Spider-Man was 2002, I think. Like, they get the whole thing for, they rejuvenated the whole Marvel universe. They didn't. Blade did. Blade shouldn't have been a hit at all. It was just meant to be. I think it's the test screens were like really bad for it. So there was no kind of like weight put into it, and it was a fucking massive hit.
Yeah, like a real surprise hit at the summer.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was like it came out around Halloween. But I think it was, or might have been the summer actually. Well, it was number one for a couple of weeks at the box office over in America, and like we were saying, Laura was saying like fucking about half an hour ago, that the story to Blade for people. He's a vampire hunter. His mother was attacked by a vampire
when she was pregnant with him, basically just about to give birth. So his mother wasn't fully turned. Basically, she was still kind of like halfway between a human and a vampire. So he was born into that. So of course he's made it his life's mission to hunt down vampires, because obviously they killed his mother.
So he's like the day walker, and he's got like Whistler. It's a bit similar to the Punisher. Like the Punisher Punisher
drinks blood, he has fangs.
No, the Punisher has his version of Whistler. I can't think of his fucking name now for the life of me. But it's a very 70s thing. I'm fairly sure that that Blade popped up in the Spider-Man animated cartoon as well at one point.
Just popped up to say hi, Spidey.
Yeah, no, remember they had the whole vampire with Morbius in it. Yeah, and apparently Stephen Norrington appeared in a scene that was cut from Blade, he was going to be Michael Morbius at the end of it. So they probably had ideas about bringing it. They would have liked to brought all these characters in. Because there's a big fucking vampire thing in Marvel. There always has been there.
That's what I was just going to ask. My timeline is always skewy. I can never decide like when things were or understand when things were because I just have no concept of time. But all the interview with the vampire stuff, was there all that renewed vampire?
I think that would have been before that. I think that would have, because I remember we were like about 15 going to see that, and we were like got given out to by like the because we were like, oh, you're underage, you shouldn't be in, and then they were like, oh, you can stay here anyway, because we bought tickets for Stargate, and we were like, one of the chaps that were hanging around really wanted to see it, so we were like, oh yeah, come on, we sneak into it. But that was the interview with Vampire was massive. Like I remember like where we were from, it was like a small town in Ireland, and
everyone was mad about it.
It was sold out, like. But
that would the Anne Rice books.
Yeah, but vampires have always been a thing.
No, I know, but it seems to come in like waves where you have all of that, and then kind of people get a bit sick of it. And then it's like, you have the Sookie Stackhouse things, and then people get a bit sick of it, and then it's just.
But Blade
Blade was cool. Though.
Yeah, it changed the whole vampire thing. They wanted to do it from a real point of view of like. Vampirism has been like a disease and like what way would vampires operate. So I think it probably has an awful lot to owe to Vampire the Masquerade, because Vampire the Masquerade, people are familiar, it's a role-playing game, and some people, they actually like LARP it in real life, so they go around with their symbols, and the whole thing with Vampire the Masquerade is that it was like very goth and cool, and it took away from the goth, not the gothic, the vampire in the castle, and put it into like an urban
modern setting as such.
And they have what the Masquerade is, this whole thing where vampires have a deal with humans where they won't outright show themselves, because like humans will just hunt them down. They're kind of scared of humans in groups, and there's kind of elements of that in Blade as well. You have the Vampire Council, and they're like gangsters and stuff, and for people I don't know even if they're a thing anymore, there was a group called Temple of the Vampire that sprung up in the 2000s that were kind of based on Vampire the Masquerade, and they mixed Blade and Underworld, and they were like
all of that into it.
They thought that they were real vampires, and some of them got caught up in like gangs and things. Like I won't say, but they got involved with the Church of Satan, and there was, you can look it up. I won't get into it all, but they were very much like copying. But they brought it into the real world.
Yeah, so it was all sort of like, let's wear long leather jackets and sort of get our teeth like fanged up and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then there was lichens as well. There were some people that they wanted to be werewolves. But that was a shame. There was no werewolves actually in Blade. They could have done like crossovers. I'd imagine if they bring it back, they will do maybe a crossover with Werewolves by Night, because Marvel actually did a pretty good fucking short movie, Werewolves by Night, where it was like Gail Garcia. Do you remember seeing that?
I think so,
black and white.
Yeah.
Man-Thing was in it. So like Marvel has like quite a good collection of horror characters in it. But even like I've got the Marvel Unlimited app, which has like you have access to all the comics, and I went reading through something, and the whole thing is I read enough that it actually put me off reading Marvel stuff again. Where it's just like after a month I'm like, alright, I'm fucking cancelling this. But there's a whole story arc over the last couple of years with vampires in it, where Dracula forms a vampire nation, and there was this thing like the summer event this year was Blood Hunt, where it's like Blade, spoilers, Blade basically turns on the Avengers because he was an Avenger. So I'd imagine that probably what Marvel were hoping to do in the cinematic universe was they were going to do something similar to what they did with the Blood Hunt thing by bringing Blade into it and make Blade an Avenger, and because in that version of the Avengers, Captain Marvel is it. It just seemed that they were going to do something like that, and it didn't work out.
Materialised,
No, they still could. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. It'd make more sense to me for them to do something like that, because I think they need to go a bit darker and grittier, and if they bring Doctor Doom into it, they'll be bringing more mysticism and. But Blade.
Back to Blade, yeah. So obviously there is like 3 films, I suppose, released, and obviously I think as usual the original is the best kind of a thing, I would imagine.
Stephen Norrington, he came from being an effects artist and doing special effects in movies, and like it's hard to kind of, because sorry, the dog was just acting a knob chasing after a cat, but it's hard kind of looking back on it to kind of appreciate how different Blade was, like.
Again,
Directed.
this is around the time of the Matrix as well. So
it was before the Matrix.
Yeah, so it was all that kind of like, people walking around like wearing sunglasses and looking cool and wearing leather
But
jackets.
even action-wise,
yeah.
like, I mean, Blade is full of action, but the way it's shot, like, with the really fast edits and things weren't really doing that. There was, like, some music videos, alright, and people used to fucking... there was a certain older crowd that were like, the MTV style of doing things, the way Michael Bay gets shit on a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of like, the Crash Bang Whiz kind of, the MTV edit.
And there was, but, like, I mean, Blade didn't get that. People, like... I think universally thought that Blade was directed fucking excellently. And it really influenced a whole generation of movie directors. And I think David Fincher was actually lined up to direct it as well.
Yeah.
At one point. So that'd kind of tell you the way that they were going with it. But it's... Yeah, it was just so fucking different at the time, and like it was groundbreaking for the time as well. Wesley Snipes was already a big name, so it's not as if like turned Wesley Snipes into a household, but it kind of propelled him into more action orientated stuff.
Was, absolutely. Was Demolition Man before that, right?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, but the whole thing, he was like Wesley Snipes was like a fucking fantastic actor. He played in a lot of drama stuff. Like, I mean, I love Wesley Snipes in Major League. It's a guilty pleasure movie, but as well he was like fantastic in New Jack City is one of my favourite films as like Nino Brown. Like he is like Wesley Snipes, fucking fantastic actor. He should have kind of like got Oscar roles, and I don't know that his career could have went another way, but I think he was...
I think that whole bloody being sent to prison for tax and all that, like, that was a pile of bullshit, and I think that really derailed things for him.
Yeah, it did, and that seemed to be... I don't know, it nearly seemed to be fucking set up that they wanted to make an example of someone and he
famous,
was...
and it's like, let's leave him kind of a thing.
And it seemed really unfair. Like, I mean, I remember reading into it a bit more. I can't remember it now for the life of me, kind of like know all the details, but it did kind of like, when you look at it, it does ring of kind of like he was set up. It's... Yeah,
there's so many other people are getting away with like much worse for just like, just you pay your taxes back or get a slap on the wrist.
I think it was because he was basically kind of like, you can all fuck off. I'm not fucking going into this shit, and I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. And I think it was because he might have spoke up. Fucking Christ only knows what else he might have spoken up about, or what he might have been threatening to speak up about. Like, it's Hollywood. But yeah, they fucked him, and he did prison for it.
Yeah, and I think that's what delayed. I think did that delay Blade 3 coming out?
No, this was long after Blade 3.
Yeah, film I thought that got delayed.
It was the film. There was probably a load of films that never got made because of it. But he was in Expendables 3.
Maybe that was
Sylvester Stallone, because there was this whole thing where it was like, he'll never work again when he comes out. People don't want. It's not as if the guy was a fucking child molester. If he was a child molester, he probably wouldn't have got fucking locked up anyway, and he probably would have got loads of movies, and probably would have won Oscars like fucking Roman Polanski and all that. Like Hollywood is a fucking...
Yes, it's a bit skewed, alright. What it accepts and what it doesn't, alright. But I suppose one of the kind of the intriguing bits, I suppose, about Blade is sort of the really weird... They're not even cameos because they're like main parts. Like, I mean, Chris Christopherson is like Whistler. That was like such a weird, like, you're like, brilliant. Oh my god, he's in this,
and he suits it. So like, I can't picture Whistler as being anyone else. Like,
exactly, and then again, like Blade 2 as well, it just did it again because the huge thing was like, your man from Bros is in it.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I can remember being absolutely fucking... This blew my mind. It was kind of like people were going, your man from Ross is in the new Blade, and I was like, like that's... I thought it was like a meme or an internet joke, and then I went to see it and I was like, holy shit, it is your man Goss, and oh my god, he's amazing. Fucking brilliant.
Like, it was a real find by Guillermo del Toro. But yeah, and who else was in? Ron Perlman. And Ron Perlman wasn't well known at that stage either. Like, he was in Kronos, and like he was in Beauty and the Beast as a TV show. Yeah, he was. Yeah, but he wasn't like he wasn't the Ron Perlman that he is now.
And of course, sure, you mentioned Ryan Reynolds. He was not really. He was an unknown really at that stage.
Ryan Reynolds would have been known just for, like, say, Van Wilder and comedies and things. He would not have been seen as an action.
Absolutely,
and Triple H, of course. course.
Of course, yes. Yeah,
but it was, we were like, Parker Posey was an odd choice as well to have. Like, Parker Posey is like a really good actress, and she's like, I suppose she'd be, would be like an actor's actor kind of a thing.
Maybe you think of her as being more art house films and stuff like that, maybe.
And she's very funny. Like, she was, for people that she was in, like, Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show and all that. She's in that kind of troupe with all those people. But the original Blade, going back to that, it's like the impact that it did have on cinema was massive. Stephen Dorff is fantastic in it as well. Stephen Dorff's career seemed to fucking kind of drift off for some reason for ages.
It did, yeah.
And then it was only when he was in like True Detective, the third season, he was fucking brilliant in that. Like, he's a great actor. I think Christian Slater as well. I always kind of associated the two of them with each other. That Christian Slater was kind of a lot of people, he's going to be next Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, I think that was just because of the eyebrows.
Yeah, but he was like seen as like a serious actor, and then his career kind of went off as well. Which is I think he's back in stuff again. Same with Stephen Dorff's career.
Wasn't he in that safety video for The Office?
Oh yeah, for Sabre.
Yes, there you go. So yeah, you must be doing well.
Yeah, but it's first film, amazing.
I mean, it's the action scenes even in the first, the way it was shot, the way it was like, it wasn't like your typical sort of like kung fu where it's like, whoa, high chop, kind of thing, high chops and all this. It was like gritty sort of street usable fight moves and stuff.
Yeah, but the whole thing with it, that's like Wesley Snipes with him being like, big into kind of kung fu and stuff. That was like what he really wanted to push it into it. Sorry, I'm going to have to just get the dog to stop. So, back again.
Yes, kung fu.
Yeah, kung fu. Yeah, like the action in it was amazing. Like a lot of the stuff at that time when you would be talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme and then it's just up to, but it was the way it was shot, and as well that you had the gunplay in it and stuff.
Yeah, and there was very inventive weapons as well, because it was like, all right, kind of. It wasn't just your traditional let's stake a vampire in the heart kind of thing. It was all like, UV sort of guns and UV fucking not even crossbows, what would you call it even, I suppose, like katana blades kind of a thing, those kind of things. It was just really weird, unusual, like UV bullets that exploding people,
Whistler is like M out of Bond, and everyone loves those gadgets and stuff.
Weird gadgets.
But as well, when they were showing like the vampire world and the way that it works with familiars and the nightclubs and like the opening scene was famous, like everyone was like, oh my god, like for that with like techno, because no one would have ever thought of fucking vampires like in at a rave
techno,
with blood coming down out and like
the sprinklers in the ceiling,
and then like Wesley Snipes showing up and killing a bunch of people.
Who was the guy?
He was in The Shield.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I was trying to.
But even like the Keeper of Secrets in it, or I think was he the Keeper of Secrets? But like he's like just such a weird fucking looking vampire. Where he kind of opened up this whole thing. Well, there might be more shit going on. Or that there might be more different vampires, and as well the magic in it with La Magra and all that, and like CGI holds up all right.
It does actually. Yeah. Like even if you go into the second one, I suppose, which is where like a lot of people kind of like, because of the mutation of the vampires, like just jaw and hinges.
But like the second one, so like there's more kind of like CGI in the first one, and it would have been when CGI was at its infancy. So a lot of films that came out of that, you look at them and you go, oh, there's still a couple of bits, but it's mostly practical stuff. It's just really with like a few small bits with Stephen Dorff when he's kind of like turned into the blood demon at the end of it.
And you kind of go, ugh.
But still the way that's shot as well. I think one of the things that separated it from a lot of with the Batman movies and with the other, they were shot like that they were for children or they were comic book things. This was shot for adults.
Definitively an adult
and audience. It was shot very, very well. It was like elevated superhero movie. And people didn't even realise, I think, that it was a super... Like, Blade wasn't that well known at all. And, like, it did so well then, obviously it spawned the sequels. But out of the whole lot of them, I think... there was Spawn was out roughly after that, which... although we should go back and rewatch that. It mightn't be as bad as Remember It. But, it spawned the sequels thing, and it's like... We shouldn't have said it. They're all written by David Goyer. And people who are familiar with David Goyer, he wrote the Batman movies with Christian Bale in it. He's wrote a load of fucking superhero things and horror movies.
Was that the plague thing he had? No, that TV series. What was that? Oh my god.
David Goyer?
David S. Goyer, I'm sure there was a TV season, and I can't. My poor addled brain does not remember anything, unfortunately.
I don't know, but yeah, but anyway, it did so well that like Stephen Norrington, obviously he didn't come back for the second one, and it was Guillermo del Toro who did, who would not have been really well known at that stage. He was kind of an underground, I suppose, horror director from Mexico, obviously, and then like. I don't know, I suppose people's expectations weren't up or anything. It was just like, oh, and Blade 2 for a lot of people was even better than the first one. Now, for me, going back watching it, I do think the first one is the best.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
The trilogy,
It's the best, but for me, the second one is actually more memorable just because of the whole fact of, like, you know, the Goss brother with the fucking
he plays it very good because for Blade 2 it gets deeper into the world where it's like there's a new strain of vampire called Reapers, which is feeding off other vampires, but when they get blood in, they're like crack addicts and they just go wild, killing everyone. So Blade is recruited by the vampire nation to hunt
to try and get rid of them.
So he has like a team of vampires working under him that were trained to hunt Blade down, and like shenanigans ensue,
of course.
But it's got that whole Guillermo del Toro special effects thing to it, and like Guillermo del Toro as well. There was bits and pieces I like nearly a Frankenstein put in it, but Luke Goss is fucking amazing. You could say he's like Frankenstein's monster in it. But like even he did a lot of his own stunt work as well. Like Wesley Snipes does all his own stunt work in those films, and it brings that extra layer of realism to it, and it's just all that more impressive, like, you know. But yeah, it's fucking. There's as good as it is. I don't think it holds up as well as the first one.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely the first one. As I said, it's like the first and the best kind of a thing. It is definitely out of the three of them the most compelling, the most original. It's your introduction to the whole Blade universe, I suppose, really, you know, and all the characters. So it's, you know, it's kind of a gut punch straight away. Whereas by Blade 2, you're sort of right, we know what the drill is and all the rest. So, and again, it's the introduction of the new big badge that holds that. And then in 3, it's a lot of like, oh, let's do lingering shots of abs and bellies and boobs and stuff.
But it's well, like in fairness, I will say we'll get into 3 in a bit with it. But like, I mean, 3 was David Goyer's first foray into directing, and maybe they should have got him directing something a bit different then. But with the second one as well, where I think it kind of falls flat, is that the story isn't, I don't know, it's just, it all seems to be set up around certain action scenes, whereas in the first one they were showing different bits and pieces, and you can tell as well that with the first one they probably didn't have much hopes for getting a sequel out of it when they were making it, because they killed Whistler off, and then they have to bring him back in the fucking second one.
It's like fucking Supernatural, it's like keep resurrecting people.
And like he's a vampire and he gets changed back to a human very quick, and they never really linger on it too much. It's just like, he's here. And fucking whatchamacallit, Norman Reedus is in it as well as Scott, which is like Blade's helper.
Well, Whistler's kind of almost replacement when he was gone, kind of helping him build all the weapons and stuff like that. Yeah.
And
was that Norman Reedus' sort of first big role as well?
No, Norman Reedus is in stuff for fucking donkey's years.
No, but I mean first, like, you know, proper starring film role.
No, I think he was in the Boondock Saints before that. He was in a load. Like,
would you call the Boondock Saints a big film?
From what I can remember, Norman Reedus, I think, was a child star.
Oh, right, okay.
Or maybe I'm getting it mixed up with one of the other guys from the Boondock Saints. But no, I'm fairly sure he was in a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Like,
you learn something new every day.
Yeah. But Blade 2, where are we going with it? Oh yeah, the best thing about it is the practical effects, the design of the whole thing, which is like Guillermo del Toro's whole strong point. And you could see this was nearly his way of getting towards, he wanted to make Hellboy. and like there's some of them are wearing BPRD t-shirts. Thing it's Ron Perlman, so I think he wanted Ron Perlman in this so he could say to Hollywood, look, this is my fucking Hellboy, this is what I want to do. And because it did massively well, then he got Hellboy after that, like he did Hellboy I think a couple of years after that, wasn't it? And I think Hellboy 1 and 2, fantastic films. There's a new Hellboy coming out as well, by the way.
Let's watch that then.
It looks really bad. I don't know. It could be just that the trailer is really bad, but it's.
But of course, he had your man Luke Goss was over in Hellboy as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He played.
Nuada,
but it's Nuada. Irish, he's like a fairy kind of thing. And in Ireland, he was.
Yeah, and when you say fairies, it's not like fucking Tinkerbell fairies. It's like fairies that will devour your face and stuff.
But in Irish mythology, he would have been one of the Tuatha De Danann, which is like an ancient race, kind of like the founding fathers of Ireland. Nearly like the Greek gods up on Mount Olympus, and Nuada got his arm cut off and he replaced it with a silver arm and a sword. He went fighting monsters.
Fighting around the world. Yeah. But going back to, I suppose, the special effects and the fight scenes and all the rest in Blade 2, like there's one where it's basically Blade is facing off against what's his name? Matt Goss's character. What's his name? The Reaper.
Fuck, I
can't remember. Yeah. But facing off basically on this like fucking crummy old walkway that's in like this deserted building, and it's like they're falling through planks, and you know it's almost like they're gymnasts on a fucking a pole vault kind of a thing, tearing along. And I can actually remember watching that in the cinema going, oh my god, if they're actually doing that for real, oh my god. And sure, they pretty much were, like, you know. It's astounding fucking, you know, choreography and agility and fucking martial arts ability, I suppose.
There's really, really good action scenes in it. It's fucking, and the whole light grenades and things as well, and the like there's, you can see a fucking the plot twist coming a mile off. And some of the acting isn't great in it. The guy who plays the head vampire, he looks kind of like a Nosferatu in it, and he's just a shithead. And sure, of course, he turns out to be Luke Goss's father, you know. And like, but there's never, I don't know, there's too many plot holes in it. Yes. But you ignore the plot holes because it's just a fun movie. It's a good action movie. Yeah. Excuse me.
No.
With it, so yeah, you had, like, I mean, fan service for that. I bought the soundtrack. I managed to get the soundtrack to that. It was hard to get the first Blade soundtrack. Well, where we were in Ireland at that stage, like, people were just big into Blade anyway, and then everything was teed up for the third one, which is terrible, really. Kind of like looking back on it, like I thought going to come on to and say, because I remember quite liking the third one, obviously not as much as the other two, but I didn't think it was too bad. When we were rewatching it the other night, it was just like, my god, this is way worse than I imagined.
I actually thought it was okay. Like, I mean, you had the light comic relief, I suppose, with Parker Posey and Ryan Reynolds being his usual fucking like motor mouth self kind of a thing.
Dracula, I thought that a lot of people shit on the Dracula. I thought Dracula was actually quite good in it. Was it Dominic Gleeson? No, not Dominic Gleeson.
No.
Fucking Dominic Purcell.
Yeah.
Played Dracula in it.
And he looked the part, and as well, it just kind of cracked me up because it brought me right back to the fashion of that particular era as well. It's like, I'll wear my thick jeans and my leather coat with my new shirt, and I've got tribal tattoos.
See, I think the thing is, David Goyer, he was after writing them on. David Goyer's star was fucking rising at the time. He could do no wrong. So I think he was like, look, I want to direct the third one, or else I'm fucking, you know. So to keep him sweet, they let him direct it. Quite obviously, he was obviously really influenced by Stephen Norrington, and he tried to shoot it like Stephen Norrington, but obviously, since it was his first time directing, he wasn't as talented, I suppose. I don't mean that.
No, yeah, I didn't have
he didn't have the skills. Yeah, not talented, and so there was a lot of bad decisions made. And as well, I think you can tell when a bad director, you see how bad the acting can be, like, because of just bad takes. So you even said, like, how the hell is Chris Christopherson can't act in this one?
Yeah, all of a sudden he's like, I am reading lines off of teleprompter.
But same, Dominic Purcell is amazing. He was in Prison Break. I think he was Mr. or Captain Freeze in the CW, their kind of Flash and Arrow universe thing, and he's really good in that. But he's a fucking brilliant actor.
Yeah.
But in this, he's like a plank of wood. And fucking
interesting.
Ryan Reynolds is probably the best actor in it, and like Wesley Snipes, he was really pissed off at the time because he was like, "You're trying to fucking push me out," because it was like that. They were
trying to set him up like with all these new kind of cool kids coming in.
So it wasn't really a Blade movie. Yeah. It's really kind of like a Blood Pack movie, or I can't remember what they're taken from the comics, so they're quite obviously trying to expand the universe with the third one. And Wesley Snipes was fucking like notoriously pissed off when he hated Ryan Reynolds on the set. And that, like, I mean, I think they nearly joke about that in the movie as well, because he hates Ryan Reynolds' character in it. True. Is it Jessica Biel is her name?
That's what I was just going to say.
Or Jennifer Biel? I can't remember.
It would be Jessica, I think. Yeah, if you go down, you just had the cast up there.
No, that was for it too.
Oh, okay. But Jessica Biel. But as I said, kind of referred to before, this film is very much a kind of a, I would say, sort of very much of its time, insofar as it was like there's an awful lot of lingering shots of, like, you know, Jessica Biel to go to attack someone, and for some reason it'll be she's pulling her gun out of her waistband, but it'll be an extreme close up of her belly button, and like, look at her taut abs, and let's linger over.
As well that she was like listening to her MP3 player.
Yeah, it was like,
which MP3 players are only new at that stage.
Yeah, it was like cool. I've got my MP3 playlist all
like
teed up.
You couldn't go around fighting vampires with a massive CD player fucking
my CD is skipping, oh no. But like, it wasn't, I'm not saying that it was just on, like, it was the same with, say, Ryan Reynolds. It's like, oh, let's just like kind of look at his glistening abs as he gets beaten up, kind of a thing. And it was just very titillating, I suppose, is probably the word I'm looking for. Is kind of like, oh, let's draw in like the teenage boy audience here, and you know, I wish I had his abs, and I wish I could touch her abs, kind of a thing, you know. It was just
but as well, it was like the cool kids, you know, where there was like her and Hannibal, fucking Ryan Reynolds, but Ryan Reynolds just plays Ryan Reynolds
in everything, I think, at this stage.
And there was your woman Natasha Lyonne from Orange is the New Black and stuff, and I don't know. They
kind of set up this like, oh, look, we're a family, because obviously she had, you know, the daughter as well, and it's kind of like, look, she's a mama, and she's blind as well. No, we'll throw in everything that we can.
Kill her. And there was the guy that was like, just seemed to drive around, who's been in a ton of fucking films. He was in Alien Resurrection, and he's really good and stuff, but he never really gets to a chance to kind of be a big.
And of course, I can never. Why can't my brain is gone.
Triple H.
No.
The dog.
No. The comedian.
Patton Oswalt.
Yes, thank you. There you go, Patton Oswalt was in this.
And he was kind of big at the time.
Yeah, but it was a waste of a character as well. It was just, he was in it for a while, he got a few lines, and it was like, oh, he's dead now.
But I think they wanted to have like, oh, look at these nice characters. Like, they couldn't kill Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. Even though they kind of did at one point in it. But there was no real risk in it. There was no real... And like, Blade is... Like, Wesley Snipes apparently was stoned for a lot of it, and he was fighting with like people on it, and he was typically wouldn't shoot certain scenes because he was so pissed off. And so it did kind of become other people's film, and then like the bad guys, like Parker Posey, I think is really miscast as like she's more comic relief.
That's what I was going to say. She's hilarious, but I don't know it's meant to be quite that hilarious.
I think it's on the tip, but she looks quite scary. She reminds me of some of the vampires out of Stephen King's Toby Hooper's thing, Salem's Lot. When obviously not the Nosferatu, but when they turn their eyes or kind of like that. I think if it was played more straight, she could have been fucking really, really sinister. And her brother is just like a fucking loser. And Triple H is just Triple H. And it's, you know, and why they had him, I could see why they had him in it, because he was big at the time.
Yeah, it's a name to add to the cast.
And he's not awful in it. I quite like Triple H. I used to hate him at that stage. I didn't like him when he was in D-Generation X and stuff, but since he's taken over the WWF, I think he's, which we'll get into in a coming episode.
Yes. Watch this space.
Yeah, but it's the weakest of the three. It's not good film, and it pretty much killed.
I still enjoyed it.
It killed the franchise. Well, as well, they went on. They did the TV series. I don't know what the TV. I'd imagine it's not great because you don't really hear many people talking about it. And at the time, I didn't hear many people going, "Oh, you have to look at this." And it was on Spike TV, which was kind of the place for, like, Bar Rescue was probably one of the best programs on Spike TV.
Yeah.
Well, they used to originally have the UFC over here. We used to watch the UFC.
Yeah, I think that was on Spike as well, wasn't it? Yeah.
So it was. You know, you wouldn't associate. It's not HBO or anything. Yeah. You know? But and then Marvel got the rights back for a lot of their stuff and got the rights back for Blade, and that pretty much killed off Blade. up until now, and like I think Marvel as well capitalized on the success of the movies. At the time, the Blade comic came back, and you know, I'm not too sure if Blade actually had a comic of his own. I think he might have always just popped up in Dracula and like the Night Stalkers and all these other things.
I thought he had his own one at one stage there, but I could be very mistaken.
But like then when he came, they had like Blade, and even nowadays Blade in the comic still looks like Wesley Snipes. He's got that whole look which was created by those people. Like that's not the way Blade looked before. Like look back at old pictures of Blade, and he's kind of like 70s kind of flares and a leather jacket.
He's more shaft.
But the character was a bit boring in the comics, and even I remember when he popped up in fucking Spider-Man cartoon, he was a bit kind of not. You know, like they really like Wesley Snipes made Blade his own. He should get like all the recognition for it, but of course Marvel won't fucking do that because fucking even kind of people that Marvel had on the payroll, fucking. I think it's only the last couple of years they're saying, oh yeah, Steve Ditko might have.
He might have had something to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. Whether they're notorious for kind of like treating for people like artists and creators like fucking shit. Which apparently they're doing on the movies as well, which you can see in the dip in the quality, and it'll get to the point where people be just like, nah, I don't want to work with these.
That's it, because that's the thing though. I mean, it was like, I think we've spoken about this, I suppose, at length before as well. Like, I can remember when all of the sort of the superhero films started becoming a thing, it was actually really exciting and really like, oh my God,
yeah, it was,
they're starting to make films like of stuff that we like, and it's got all the comic book nerds are like validated. They're like, see, these are great and it could be fantastic and cool. And then it was like, they're making a lot of them, and then it's like, oh shit.
Marvel and Disney will
they just basically drove it into the ground.
Like, I couldn't get over, like, I was really excited to get the Marvel Unlimited app, and there was a deal where it was meant to be £3 for 3 months, and it was just, I don't know. First, I started reading Wolverine and like picking up from like the death of Wolverine and coming back. And then all of a sudden it was just like, fucking hell, why are you... They'd have a story, they just interrupt it because they'd have some event going on with other comics which they'd rope into it. Then they wouldn't go back to the story that they're on, they'd have some other fucking story. And it was just like all over the place. And they're just trying to interconnect everything to the detriment of storytelling.
Yeah, okay, they might all exist in the same universe, but that doesn't mean you have to like have them show up everywhere.
No, it's like just fucking tell a story.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, that's what they're after doing with the movies, where they're just like, oh no, we'll just have these movies out where they don't really go anywhere, but we'll throw them all together.
Yeah, it's just so everyone gets, oh look, it's you know, it's this character I love, and oh look, there's a hint to that character. It's literally it's like a roll call nowadays.
Yeah,
more
just
so than
tell the fucking arc. Have characters in a story and tell their fucking arc, like what they did with Batman. That's what made fucking, my God, I can't think of his name.
Nolan?
Yeah, Nolan's Batman films. So they were just 3 standalone. Well, you can look at them on their own anyway. You don't have to look at it.
That's it, but it's not as if you're not dragging in Superman, you're not dragging in like Wonder Woman, you're not dragging in the whole fucking, you know, kitchen sink with it. It's like, it's just Batman's film.
Yeah.
And all of his villains. Like,
and have his arc. And even like with like people shit on fucking what's his face, Zack Snyder Superman films. But they were telling a story arc. You didn't need to kind of go, oh, I need to look at the Justice League and I need to look at this and I need to look at that. You know, you didn't get a chance to finish telling any of these things. But I'd say you could see it was like going somewhere, and you could see that there was probably pressure. So you have to do a Marvel thing. We need to have our fucking big kind of tentpole move, where it's like treat the movies as their own standalone thing and big event. Yeah. Instead of like, this is a throwaway movie. Like
it's
Thor
like, I was just going to say Thor, it's just a bit of filler just to get us over the hump to the next film that we actually want to make, or is this is just like we're just going...
Or it's like, we're just getting up to like an event.
Yeah, but you still have to watch it, and you still have to spend your money, so you know where you're up to by the
But that's what they do with the comics. That's what they're after trying to bring into the movie kind of things, but they're fucking losing a lot more money, kind of like, you know, with movies with it. Whereas I think if they got back to the way that they were with Blade, that'd be great. But like me, I went reading kind of like about the vampire things with Blade in it, and like fucking, it looks like Wesley Snipes, but they're after it's nearly like a cornier version where he's like, hey, suckheads, you know, this kind of like, ooh, and it's like, oh Jesus Christ, and then they haven't painted as the villain. It's just not good. It's just, I'm really, like, I've read about people bitching about Marvel online with the comics, and it's just going back reading them where I just kind of like,
understand it.
And like, I mean, for people that, like, I love comics, like I make comics, I've been reading comics for fucking nearly 40 years. And
it's not a fan.
It's just no. It's just Marvel. I just don't get it. Like, and I think DC aren't much above them at the moment either. Would think so. Independent comics, people. Yeah. Go read independent comics.
Like, what is that really great comic that I saw online the other day?
Oh, Clobot in the City.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, exactly.
Really cool,
what's the other one again?
Well, it's part of a shared universe, quite like the MCU, called RoboFec.
Fucking people with their shared universe making you buy multiple comics. Yeah. How dare they?
Yes, I have a comic over to crowstudios.com and you can read them for free.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're not trying to suck all the lifeblood out of teenagers' pocket money or anything like that.
I did sign a contract with Disney lately, and we're going to be making a series of movies.
No, totally unrelated to having to do with the comic, but Yoda's going to pop up in it as a baby.
Who?
Yoda.
Yeah, baby Yoda. Grogu.
Yes, just so you can have
Droga.
Merchandise.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's Blade movies. They're obviously good things.
Yes.
And even, like we're saying, 3, for as bad as it is, it's still watchable.
I suppose maybe it's nostalgia with me, but I'm just like, it brings me back to like the late 90s.
It's very much, it's very,
time.
Very dated, like, with it. But even there's that whole scene as well where like Dracula goes for a walk in the city with his white shirt off and showing his chest, with it's like a fucking a mashup of Venus and Furs by the Velvet Underground and some terrible rap shit over it. But it's just like they try and do that stop motion thing that they did in the first one, where it's like the crowds are moving by really quick and he's just walking really slowly through the crowd.
Almost like he's out of time or something like that.
And then he goes into a shop that specialises in like Dracula.
Dracula, yeah.
Things, and they're like, oh, we've a Dracula dildo. And he gets really angry and kills him.
Yes. Whereas I wouldn't be massively happy if I went into a shop that was like, oh, by the way, here's a dildo of you and I'm making money on it.
That could have been a really funny scene. Yeah. If like they had like Dracula getting angry or kind of go like he's like Scooby-Doo, but he was just like blank and it's just like it's just like a wasted joke.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, look, thank you for listening. Yes. If you got this, or do the usual, tell your friends, give a like,
go back
subscribe.
And watch
Blade. Go back and look at Blade, and we'll be back next week to probably talk about wrestling.
Exactly.